So I've been asked about this so many times that I decided to make a video about this, and this is the topic that is very, very interesting specifically to my international audience that is not from English-speaking countries, because I know that I have many of you here. Hi, how are you? And this is the question about my English, why I even started learning English, why I'm so fluent, and I have so many videos already on how I learn languages, on my American accent in English, and on everything that I do, and I have a course on this. And I decided to make a video specifically about my English journey because so many of you are interested. And this video is sponsored by my language courses, my How to Learn Languages course, my Advanced Grammar University course, and my American Accent Academy course, and all of them are linked in the description for you guys. So let's get into it. Like, we have 23 years of my life to talk about, and I'm almost 26, and I don't want to be here for like 3 hours, so let's go. Just very quickly, before we begin the video, I'm Laura. I post 2 videos a week and I talk about learning, lifestyle design, minimalism, veganism, and traveling. So if you're interested in learning more about these topics on my channel, then you can subscribe. And you can also like this video if you enjoy it, and you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my daily life. You can become a patron of this channel if you want to support us, and you can join our Facebook group. And before we begin, I know that my circumstances were favorable, and I know that I was very lucky to experience what I experienced, and I know that I'm also very good naturally at learning languages. So my story is going to be completely unique, and yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Let me know in the comments if you speak English as your native language, or if you learn English and where you're at in your English speaking journey. And also let me know what you think about my journey, but please be respectful, because I know that my story and my circumstances were probably different than yours. So be kind and be loving. I know that I have the most beautiful and amazing humans in my community. So thank you so much for being so kind and loving and helpful and supportive in the comments. I love you so, so much. So we're going to start from why I started learning English. And I didn't have a choice because my parents signed me up for an English course in my kindergarten. And it was so much fun for me. I fell in love with English, and I just loved doing everything and being outspoken and talkative and just sharing what I learned with my parents. Like, I loved my English classes. I loved them. I loved the whole thing. And it was just a matter of time for me to continue. So it all started when I was 3, and I lived in Poland in a monolingual house. My parents were Polish, my whole family was Polish. Like, I didn't have anyone in my close environment who spoke English to me, and the only way for me to experience English was in my kindergarten. And by the way, if you want to know how I started speaking with an American accent in English while living in Poland and then moving to London, then I have a whole video on that. It is linked in the description. But yeah, it all started in kindergarten, and then when I started elementary school, I always had private classes. So I had private group courses, and we were taught this Helen Doran method, and I loved it. Like, I really loved going to my English class each week after classes, like after school. Later in middle school, I always had private classes with my friend and with my elementary school teacher, and she was kind of like giving us extra homework, and she was teaching us more advanced stuff than we were learning at school, because my whole life I also had English classes at school. Like, when you live in Poland, it is obligatory for you to learn English. I think for everyone, maybe in some schools you learn German, but for me it was English, and I had all of these obligatory classes in school, and I also had private classes. And because I was so in love with English, and I was so happy when I was learning English, and I was so proud of myself when I was making progress, I always wanted to do more. I always wanted to have more homework and more assignments and explore new things in English. And because of that, I was so good that I started to become better than my classmates very, very early on, and I was so bored in my English classes at school. Like, I was so bored because I was learning so many more things outside of school. And I also told this story in my I Moved to London video of how I became so completely in love and even obsessed with the UK and with English. And it all started in elementary school because I saw this picture of Oxford University and I was like, I want to study there. So I had so many reasons to learn English and to explore English and to just want to learn as much as I could. I wanted to speak it. I wanted to live in a country where they spoke English. I wanted to study in English, and I had so many passions around English. And when I was in elementary school, I listened to a lot of English music. I mean, music in English, because my mom had a lot of CDs, and I was listening to Atomic Kitten and Anastasia and J-Lo and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera to like Justin Timberlake and Black Eyed Peas. Like, I listened to all of the early 2000s music. I just wanted to know what they were singing about, and I was translating the lyrics for myself. Like, I had so many songs that once I figured out what they were about, I was like, oh my god, this is about my life. Like JoJo, Leave, Get Out, like when I was 14. I think now, maybe I was even younger, like the angst of being a teenager and being able to identify yourself and your story with someone else's through music in a different language. Like, I was hooked. And I was growing up and living my life in Poland, but my heart was speaking English to me. Like, I was just able to identify with American music more than Polish music. And also growing up, I was watching a lot of TV shows that were dubbed, so they were in Polish, but I watched all of these TV shows and I just wanted to live their life. Like, I think I watched Too Little Time with the Olsen twins. I watched Goosebumps. Like, of course it was scary, but like, it was all about the teenagers in the US. I wasn't really watching many things that were about the UK because they were not as popular and they weren't aired on Polish TV. But whatever I was watching, I was just so into it. I just loved having this kind of a double identity, because like, I was living in Poland, but everything I was doing on my own and everything I was learning about in my spare time was about English and in English. So I was really fascinated, and I think that because it was such a huge part of my life, like living in these cultures and learning about these cultures, I think that it is one of the reasons why I always wanted to speak English and become better and better and better, and eventually assimilate as a near native speaker of English in a country where they speak English. And also because I started at such a young age. Like, when you're 3, you're starting to speak your native language, and if you start learning a second language, it is much easier for you to learn it and absorb it and acquire it and then later master it. And so many circumstances that contributed to my being able to just learn and become better and better. Like, I had all of these stimuli and private classes, and I was just naturally curious, and I wanted to live in England one day. Like, I had so much going on in my life that English was just my passion and my priority and my way of expressing myself as well. So yeah, that was my early experience with English, and that was my foundation. So then later in middle school and high school, I also had private classes, and then I had classes with native speakers from the US, and I told that story in my American accent video. And then at the age of 19, I started studying English at university as a foreign language, and just in general the cultures and the linguistics, and it was my dream. It was my dream to study English. Like, I eventually gave up on the dream of going and studying in the UK because I wanted to study law, but then I changed my mind and I really wanted to study English. So I stayed in Poland and I studied English at a Polish university, the University of Wrocław, and I also have a video on that. So if you want to learn what we learned there and what we did, I'll have it linked in the description box for you, so you can watch all of these videos and just have a full picture of me as a learner and as a speaker of English. And fast forward, I am here now in London. I live here, I speak English for a living, and I talk to you guys. And I create courses because I'm a language mentor, and I've been working with students, helping them with their English for the past 10 years, 11 years. And yeah, so this is kind of like my background, and I'm sure you want to know about the methods and the ways in which I mastered English and practiced on a daily basis. And I talked about it in so many of my videos, but I will say a few things here as well. And the first thing is that I was always speaking to myself and singing to myself and writing to myself. Like, I wrote so many things in English for myself, like diary entries or just little notes or notes on my phone or Word documents or like whatever. Like, I was always seeking ways in which I could practice my English on a daily basis. Like, I was obsessed. Like, I kid you not, there was not a day on which I was not speaking English. Like, I was so obsessed. I was speaking English every single day, singing, repeating phrases that I heard repeating dialogues from movies and TV shows, and I did it every single day. Like, I kid you not. It was something that I did on a daily basis. So if you want to become very good at something and you want to become near native in English, this is the first step. Like, if you really want to do it, like, it was my passion for a reason. Like, I felt this burning desire to express myself in English, and so that was not even like a chore for me. Speaking English and singing in English was not something that I dreaded. It was not something that I looked at as a chore or as something that I needed to do or had to do. Like, I loved it. I loved doing it. So if you're now at a point of your life where you really want to become near native, or you just want to speak English better or be more fluent, like, find a way to love it. Like, if you hate it, or if you judge yourself for it, or if you're constantly complaining about your level, that is not the way to do it. It will take you longer. And if you want to get there faster, just find ways in which you will truly love it, and that can be uniquely yours. Singing pop and watching teenage drama was just the best way for me personally, and I loved it, and you can find your own way. But I wouldn't be able to speak so much if I weren't listening. Listen. Listening is your priority. If you want to become a near native speaker of English, if you want to become more fluent, if you want to improve your pronunciation and your vocabulary and your grammar, like all of that, you need to listen, and you need to listen as much as you can. And I always chose to listen to as much English as possible. Like, I never really listened to Polish music. I never watched Polish TV shows except for a few when I was growing up. I was just always not even prioritizing because I felt like I needed to, but I just always wanted to, or was drawn to, English speaking material more, like music and YouTube videos and movies and TV shows. Every single thing that I could find, I would do it in English. And also like articles, like whenever I had some trouble or I just wanted to learn something on the internet, I would look for it in English first and later in Polish, because I found that the media and the resources in English were of better quality and there was more of it, and the Polish things were sometimes good, but it was like a hit or miss and just like the same copy repeated on a few pages. And I was looking for ways in which I could expand my knowledge in English as well. So I was not even learning about English, but I was learning about the world in English. So whenever I learned something and I wanted to find more information on it, I would Google it in English and learn about it in English. That was something that I did. Like, I consciously chose to live my life in English in a way, and my regular life was in Polish, and that was my double identity that I mentioned. Like, I always had this love for English and everything related to English. Also, in terms of like any other ways of learning or studying, I was intense about everything. Like, if you asked me to prepare a set of flashcards, like, I would do it and I would be so intense about it. I would memorize things like over and over and over again. I would go all in on learning anything about English, and I always was like that. And that was also one of the reasons why I ranked first at university, because I loved everything so much and I learned everything so intensely. Also, my memory is extremely good, so sometimes it just took one or two mentions of a word or a concept and it stayed with me. And I listened to music from a very young age, and that helped me memorize lyrics so much more. So many things and so many of my natural talents helped me when I was learning English, and I am still learning English, of course. Like, I'm still a Polish speaker, like a speaker of Polish. Polish is my native language, and sometimes I can hear some interference or some influence, and I allow it. Like, this is not something that I want when I speak English, but I'll allow it because this is my native language. Like, this is my mother tongue, Polish. So if it comes through and it shows through sometimes, it is only natural because I'm not a native speaker of English. I'm a native speaker of Polish, but it took me a while to accept that, and this is something that I also talk about in my workshops, like how I overcame the constant need to judge myself and to be perfect, because there was a time, even here on my channel, where if I heard myself make a mistake, or like I released a video and I rewatched it later, or someone told me like, oh, I think you said it in the wrong way, I would be so embarrassed and so unhappy with myself and just like judging myself, like, oh, you should know better, or you knew how to pronounce that word, like how did you pronounce it and why? And I used to be so hard on myself, but I'm not anymore, and I'm working on it. But yeah, where I'm at right now is mostly thanks to my obsession and my love for English and my dreams and desires. Because here's the thing, like when I was learning about the world in English, like when I was researching stuff or watching YouTube videos, like my vision of my dream life always included speaking English or living in an English-speaking country or working in an English-speaking environment, because I was so used to it. Like I was living in Poland, but it wasn't enough for me. Like I really wanted to be surrounded by English at all times, and this is how I think of my life right now and of what I want to achieve in my life and where I want to be. Like I want to have my career, and I don't want to speak Polish, I want to speak English, and I still speak Polish, like my mother tongue isn't going anywhere, but everything that I want to do in life is somehow connected to me being able to speak English in that particular situation or live in that particular place. And that is just a natural evolution of my soul and me as a human being. So I'm sorry if this video is not really what you were looking for. Like, I will teach you how to do this or how I did that, because in this video I really wanted to show you why and how I got to where I'm at right now. But if you want to learn with me, I am a language mentor and I have English courses and I have a course on learning languages. So if you want to learn how I learned and what you can do to learn English or any other language, you can check out my How to Learn Languages course. And if you want to learn the advanced grammar of English with me, this is something that I'm so passionate about, helping other people become near native and native-like and advanced, then check out my Advanced Grammar University. And also you can check out my American Accent Academy, because I'm also a linguist, a phonologist, and I love helping people with their accents no matter where they come from and what language they speak. So you can check out this course as well. And yeah, if you want more information, if you want to know how I improve my speaking skills in other languages as well, you can check out my learning playlist, because I have so many videos on learning languages and on being at university and learning languages at university as well. So yeah, there are so many videos that you can watch and you can learn even more about my story and more tips from me. The biggest tip that I have for you is just fall in love with the language in a way that is natural to you, and just do everything you can to be better and better and better. And if you want more guidance, you can watch my videos or other people's videos, and you can also check out my courses. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what you think, or if you have any questions for me. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my daily life, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.